And we made it an hour in the car before we pulled over, and we broke the law of chastity that was now legal for us. We checked out each other's naked body parts in the car. And then my mom was furious when we arrived at the wedding reception because we were an hour later than she wanted. She's like, it still makes me giggle. It makes me giggle because my mom just didn't even think that would be where our brains were. This is so embarrassing. I'm like flushing a little bit. Yeah, whoo.
Unpacking Mormonism and other religious trauma is meant for educational purposes only.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Unpacking Mormonism and other religious trauma. I'm your host, Sarah Westbrook, joined by Mason Westbrook. Do I get another kiss? See,
we're back right next to each other.
Oh, yeah, we're back right next to each other. And we are in the living room of our house. We've never recorded from here before, so if there's a little bit of a difference in, let's see, move it there. Yeah. There's a little bit of a difference in sound quality and whatnot. That is because we are at home, because we have been on the video conference all day working out.
Bright window in the background.
There is a really bright window in the background. We would give you a tour of our house, but I'm not gonna, because I just don't want to.
We would, but we won't.
Well, here, I will do this. I will turn the computer around so you all know we have not yet cleaned the kitchen this morning. So we are a normal couple who hates dishes. There you go. But we are at home. Make sure you have to scooch closer this way so that way that light is not horrible. Ugh. Sorry, there we go. Getting ready. So we are here today to talk about our Mormon wedding, and there's our beautiful daughter in the background. We are at home today because we have been working on getting all of the deets together for the barn for the Daisy Girl Wellness Farm project that we've been working on. All the deets.
It sounded very millennial.
I'm connecting with my millennial audience.
Generation Z or whatever.
So I wanted to start. I actually talk a little bit in my book, Trauma Bonded, about what I really wanted for my wedding. So if you've read that book, you can kind of see that I did not get anything near what I had dreamed of. So I was I'm going to say typical 80s girl. I was a little bit of a tomboy. I really liked being outdoors and adventure and that type of thing. But when it came to being a princess, I was like the princess with dirt under her fingernails. Okay, that's probably the best way to describe who I was growing up. And
that hasn't changed very much.
It really hasn't.
You still do like to get dirt underneath your fingernails.
Mm-hmm. I really like being outside. I love horses. I love animals. I love working in the ground. And if you piss me off, I throw a really good right hook. So, yeah. I've broken a nose or two in my day.
Not mine.
Nope, his is
straight.
I think
it's important to point that
out. Yeah, for sure. And then I didn't get that, though. Not at all. So in my book, I tell the story, I was dreaming about marrying my very first real boyfriend. I was a freshman in high school. That would have put me at 14 and 15. So obviously I was young. And my wedding looked like this. I'm going to just paint you a picture. So my grandma and grandpa, in my book, they show up as Thomas. My grandma and grandpa Thomas owned a cabin in the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York on Otter Lake, and they had an absolutely gorgeous view. And we would spend about every other summer, my family, while I was growing up, we would go up to New York, and my father would do maintenance on the cabin. So things like my father helped my dad build the deck that is out there. He would help, I think he helped re-roof it one year. He would work for my grandpa. He was a teacher. So we had every summer basically off, and about every other summer we went to New York, and the other summer we would go to California, and then he would also drive trucks for Ballard Truss in Snowflake, Arizona. He would drive those trucks to deliver trusses in order to earn money during the summer because as a teacher, we were dead broke. And I mean, we weren't like poverty level poor, but we definitely were poor, especially for the size family that we had growing up. And so I remember as I was dreaming about marrying Johnny, that's his name in the book, and we will leave it at that. As I would dream about marrying Johnny, what I wanted was your normal princess wedding. I wanted the twinkle lights. I wanted to walk down the aisle. I wanted everybody to
Stare at you?
Stare at me. Stand up as I walked down the aisle. I wanted to be able to have my husband, so at the time it was Johnny. I wanted Johnny to be staring at me with that like sappy, glassed over, like, oh, she's so pretty. Right? I wanted that kind of a wedding.
So what I hear you saying is at 13 and 14, you didn't get anything that you wanted.
I did not.
At 13 and 14.
No, I didn't. Well, and the other thing that I really wanted is I love fireflies. Like, I think they are the coolest little bug on the planet. We didn't really have fireflies in Snowflake where I was growing up. And so I wanted to have my wedding in upstate New York in the summertime during firefly season because I love fireflies. And so I wanted the fireflies to be, you know, my twinkle lights in the background, and I wanted to have, you know, the lights coming off the lake, and I probably would have like set little lily pads out with tea lights or something. Like, y'all, I wanted it to be outside, outdoors, natural environment, but I wanted the princess wedding. And that is not what I got in the Mormon church. I met Mason. Mason, did you even care what kind of a wedding you had? I get the feeling you didn't care.
What I wanted was a pretty girl on the other side of the altar.
And skinny.
Well, yeah, pretty girl, but
He wanted a hot model.
I never really thought much about that, actually.
Fair.
I just wanted a pretty girl on the other side of the altar, and then when it was all over, I wanted to go have sex.
He did get that. He got the pretty girl. And I will say for all of the Mormons or those in the post-Mormon space, we know that in order to get married in the temple, you cannot have, is that Quinn? Hello, Quinn. Nice to see you in our show today. So anyway, we did not get that wedding, but on the way home from the temple, we made it, maybe 30 minutes in the car before we pulled over.
At least an hour.
No.
Yeah, at least an hour. Yeah.
An hour. So we got married in the Mesa, Arizona temple. We were traveling 3 hours home.
Is this a squirrel?
Yes, this is the real. So this is to say that you got what you wanted, but I didn't get what I wanted. Oh. He got what he wanted. I was a pretty girl on the other end of the aisle. And within 1 hour of us saying yes, because we did not say I do, we were driving up the mountain, which is about a 3-hour drive out of the valley of Mesa, Arizona, back up to, we went to Pine Top Lakeside first for Pine Top Lakeside for our wedding reception the night of the wedding, and then we did a second wedding reception in Snowflake the next day, and we made it an hour in the car before we pulled over, and we broke the law of chastity that was now legal for us. We checked out each other's naked body parts in the car, and then my mom was furious when we arrived at the wedding reception because we were an hour later than she wanted. She's like, it still makes me giggle. It makes me giggle because my mom just didn't even think that would be where our brains were. This is so embarrassing. I'm like flushing a little bit. My mom yelled at us when we got, and she said, "We left 30 minutes after you. How are you 30 minutes later than us? Getting here, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, are you really asking me this question? Obviously, her thoughts after her wedding were not the same as my thoughts after her wedding. But anyway, so I did not get the dream wedding that I had from the time I was itty bitty, the great big dress and everything. I did get the great big dress. I'll show you some pictures here later. But Alex, if you can go ahead and play that wedding. This is not our wedding. This is somebody else's wedding. Somebody snuck in a hidden camera. And I'm going to say that what you're watching is basically exactly what we got. So this is what our wedding looked like. Alex, take it away.
Are you going to read the comments underneath?
Yeah, we can read the comments.
I know you or me, not we. I'm not reading them with you.
I have no idea. All right. Okay, so this is the officiator. Officiator is the dude that's marrying them. And we have left the link, the comments and link. Hey, Alex, I cannot hear it. Let's see if we can get some sound coming in. Oh, Alex says 1 sec. Okay, so the things that I want you to, there are some really cool things in the background of Alex's screen there. I have no idea what that was, but it looked really new agey. Mm-hmm. Very cool. So
So for me, if you'll think back to some of the other things that we've talked about, all I cared about was checking the boxes, like
doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, I cared who I married. That mattered a lot to me, but mostly, as long as we were attracted to each other and we both could be in the temple, that was really all that mattered to me.
Okay, so this is what our wedding looked like, and if we don't have sound, we'll just, there we go. So notice what she is wearing. She has on a green apron. It's very difficult to see some of the other robes here, but he has on a green apron. And we're going to leave the link in the comments, but this says that the video starts 20 minutes after. Okay, they're going to take each other in patriarchal grip. Hey, come on. Here we go. This is it. Woo. During the ceremony, I want him, this is the officiator, I want him to look at me, okay? I'm not as cute as he is, but there's only gonna be less than 3 minutes of this. So basically the officiator says you can't look at each other. You need to look at me. Go ahead, Mason, you read.
Brother so-and-so, do you take sister so-and-so by the right hand and receive her unto yourself to be your lawfully wedded wife for time and all eternity with a covenant and promise that you will observe and keep all the laws, rights, and ordinances pertaining to this holy order of matrimony and the new and everlasting covenant, and this you do in the presence of God, angels, and these witnesses of your own free will and choice. The only thing that's different here that I'd like to point out as this continues to go on is that it says, and receive her unto yourself.
Right.
So then you go, sister so-and-so.
Oh, wait. And he says, yes, I make that
Right.
promise. So then go ahead.
You take brother so-and-so by the right hand and give yourself to him to be his lawfully wedded wife and receive him to be your lawfully wedded husband for time and all eternity with a covenant and promise that you'll observe and keep all the laws, rights, and ordinances pertaining to this holy order of matrimony and the new and everlasting covenant, and this you do in the presence of God, angels, and these witnesses of your own free will and choice.
Yes. Okay, and Alex, can you pause that for 1 second? We're going to start it again here in a minute. But one of the things that I want to point out is I want our audience, if you are live with us or if you're watching this later on YouTube, I want you to be able to look, how many little kids are in that room? And the answer is going to be none. Most people in the Mormon church do not get a temple recommend until they're at least 18 years old or when they're going to either get married themselves or go on a mission. And so usually the youngest individuals you will ever see in the sealing room for a wedding is going to be 18 is probably the youngest, with a couple of exceptions for those who, I know that I just cut your head off, Mason.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry. With few exceptions, I know that there was a young lady that I went to high school with that got married in the temple when she was 16. But I really want to point that out because later we're going to talk about who got to be there with us. And that was really difficult. That was a really difficult thing for me because most of my friends, like my closest friends in the entire world, were not in that room. Yeah. Because most of my friends were not Mormon with me. The other thing is that Mason and I are both the oldest.
Right, even at your age, most of your friends wouldn't have been able to be there with you anyway because you were 18 and most of your friends aren't getting married at 18 years old.
I was 18 and almost 3 months. I was 18, 2 months and a week or something like that when I got married. And Mason, how old were you?
22.
So most of Mason's Mormon friends could go because they'd all served missions. So if they were home from their missions, they could be there.
Right. But my brother wasn't there because he was on his mission.
Right. Your brother was on his mission, and none of our siblings were there because we were both, I know on my side of the family, even my extended side of the family. So for me, I was the oldest sibling, and I was also the first cousin of my mother's 6 and my father's 5 siblings. I was the first one to get married in the temple. My father also, my father has my father has six siblings. And at this point when I was getting married, none of them. So I was the first child and grandchild on both sides of my family to get married in the temple. So I had a couple of my aunts and uncles came in, but none of my cousins were in this ceremony with me, and none of my friends were in the ceremony. In fact, most of the people in the ceremony with me were strangers. I didn't even know them. They were like your aunts and uncles who I'd not spent hardly any time with, and then our parents, a couple of your friends. None of my friends were in there. And then the sealer for us, or the officiator for us, was my favorite Sunday school teacher from my ward. And God bless him. He at least gave us good advice. So a lot of these officiators will give a lot of very arbitrary advice before they start this 3-minute ceremony. And our advice, the biggest takeaway I remember from that advice was the storms of life were like a raging river, and that you would be on one side of the river and I was going to be on the other side of the river, and that it was our responsibility to work together to build a bridge to meet each other safely, or that we were going to build a bridge so that we could cross that bridge in communication, and that our posterity could cross that bridge to get to the other side, blah, 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 blah. But one of the things I really loved about our sealer's advice to us was that he talked about that we had to work together equally, that it was both of our responsibilities to cross that bridge. All right.
Another piece of that is you don't have very many family, in this case, around you. But even if you were getting good advice, there's nobody there to write it down. There's nobody to take notes.
Nothing
you don't
is
bring
recorded.
Any of that stuff in here.
Right.
So, there's just, it's advice that if by chance you're mature enough at 18 years old to remember some of it, cool. I don't remember a single word.
From that?
Yeah, so the advice, like at the beginning it said this all takes place after 20 minutes of advice. But it's advice that, frankly, at that age, you're not really paying attention to.
Yeah.
You're not going to hold on to for the most part. Yeah. It's kind of a waste.
Anything else you want to say about this? I think so, and I will say, and we're going to have pictures coming up later, my wedding dress was incredibly beautiful. Of everything in my wedding, my dress is the only thing that I designed and chose. And my mother, who is a professional seamstress, sewed that dress for me. And you didn't even get to see it. In fact, my mom yelled at Mason, like snap. She whisper yelled at Mason in the temple because Mason kept stepping on the train, because my dress was designed for me to be in short heels. And then in the temple, I put on these, cute little slippers to wear underneath it. And you kept stepping on it, and a couple of the beads were coming off of it. And my mom was getting after you for that. She's like, don't tear the dress, don't tear the dress. But in the temple ceremony, so my dress I was able to wear in the ceremony. My dress was white enough. It was crushed satin. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was very, very white. Like, I know that there's a Mormon, somebody that recently interviewed, Alyssa something or other, that recently interviewed on Mormon Stories, and she said that she couldn't even get married in her wedding dress because her dress was not whiter than a piece of printer paper. I didn't have that, but that is not uncommon. For that to happen.
I listened to a podcast recently that talked about that. In fact, it's also somewhat arbitrary, because they said that my dress had actually been worn by previously 2 people, her mom and her grandmother, and they'd been able to wear it in the temple, but the matron told her she couldn't wear it. So
and it's all matron,
kind of arbitrary.
It's matron specific.
And what are you going to do about it? Like, you're there, everybody's there at the temple for you to get married, and they're going to tell you, I'm sorry, you can't wear this dress. It's not like, for most people, they can't take the dress down there beforehand and say, hey, is this going to work?
Well, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I know some people do that.
Because my mom, we bought the fabric and everything before, and I know that my mom took all of the fabric, all of the beads, everything to the Mesa Temple and said, is this white enough for my daughter to be able to get married in her dress? Somebody said yes, And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was like, ooh, that dress isn't wide enough. If my mom had said something like, look, I spoke to blah, 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 blah. And she probably spoke to the matron.
Right.
And it was like, hey, if you tell me no, go talk to the matron because she already told me yes. Like, that wouldn't surprise me.
One more thing that you should not have to be worried about.
But my gorgeous dress that my mom had spent hours and hours and hours constructing got covered up in all that. Blech. All right, go ahead, Alex, if you want to play the rest of this so you can see how quick our wedding was and how not personal.
You can buy Trauma Bonded, a true story of navigating attachments forged in complex PTSD by me, anywhere books are sold, including Audible.
The mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank, and like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
The world's most exciting podcast, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, New York Times best-selling author and National Radio Hall of Fame inductee, Michael Savage.
I'm Michael Savage, host of the Savage Nation podcast, home of borders, language, and culture. Be here or be nowhere. The Savage Nation podcast.
Catch the Michael Savage podcast on all podcast platforms every Tuesday and every Friday.
Go ahead, Mason.
By virtue of the priesthood and the authority vested in me, I pronounce you so-and-so and you so-and-so, husband and wife, legally and lawfully wedded for time and all eternity. And I seal upon you the blessings of the holy resurrection with power to come forth in the morning of the first resurrection, clothed in glory, immortality, and eternal lives. And I seal upon you the blessings of kingdoms, thrones, principalities, powers, dominions, and exaltations, with all the blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I say unto you...
Amen.
No, not yet.
Oh, wait, sorry. I'm jumping the gun.
There's another piece.
You went too fast. Oh, keep going.
I didn't want to go too slow.
Oh, there we go.
Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, that you
Have
may
kids.
have joy and rejoicing in your posterity in the day of the Lord Jesus Christ. All these blessings together with all other blessings appertaining unto the new and everlasting covenant, I seal upon you through your faithfulness by virtue of the priesthood, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
So when we were making out and checking out each other's naked parts on that drive home, we were just fulfilling the covenant we had just made, because we were told that we needed to be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So thank you so much, Alex. Alex is now going to take some time to pull up some of the photos, and while he does that, I'm going to grab all these that we sent him right before, so we can just keep going. So we've got a lot of photos. So like, here's a photo of our wedding. Here's a photo of our wedding that we're going to come back to here in a minute.
Well, these are all photos before, technically, before the
Yeah,
wedding.
we took so here's a picture of me in my beautiful dress. Here's another picture of me in in my beautiful dress. My mom did a gorgeous job. I absolutely loved my dress. Here's a close-up of the train work. There we go. The train work that my mom did. That's crooked. There we go. And whatnot. All of these pictures were technically taken before. There I am on my wedding day. See, very beautiful, very thin. He got his little model. I am no longer this thin because I've had kids and infertility treatments and life. Okay, this is me at 18. That one I'm going to do here.
You're less thin. I'm more thin. Right here.
I know.
Top of my head.
You didn't start gaining weight. Bring back the goatee, Mason. No, his goatee grows in crooked. I'm not bringing back his goatee. That is not, no.
I'll have you notice that I don't have the gaps anymore. That wasn't shaved. They just didn't grow. Actually, I take that back. It did grow on one side, but not the other.
It
so
fell
I
off.
did shave one
It
side.
fell off from right here and has grown in here and here and here. Yes. Okay, so then here we are again. That's another one of our beautiful wedding pictures. Hey, Alex, you worked so hard on getting all of those pictures loaded, and this is working so much better. And for the record, y'all, do you see my beautiful nails? Okay, I would like you to know I never do acrylics because I am too much of a tomboy. The reason I'm doing acrylics is because I have a boot. See, this is from my car accident. So I can't ride horses or do any work, so I did nails, and I hate them. And here's another picture of us. These were all taken before we got married, and the main reason was because we got married in June in Mesa, and I didn't want to be overheated, so we took the pictures outside the temple before we got married.
Oh, here's another one.
No, that one's not yet.
Oh,
not yet.
excuse me.
Okay, so here we are coming out of the temple. So, tons of little kids. All of our family celebrating with us. And my question is, why couldn't these kids... Actually, Alex, if you're still there, I need you to upload the pictures that I sent you from my cell phone of Tyler's sealing and the little boy baptism. If you could get those uploaded, that would be great. So here we've got like this little girl. Let's see right here. That's my sister. I don't know who this one is.
That's your sister all the way on the right as well.
Yeah, this is this is my sister. Mason's hugging his mom. This is I think that's my father-in-law, isn't it? No, that's not. That's somebody I don't even know. That's probably one of your uncles and stuff. So cousins, so you can barely see up that one. You can take it down for right now, Alex. I'll have you pull those up here in a minute. So the kids were at the wedding, but they had to stay outside the temple. So here's a picture of my family. And as you can see, my brothers and sisters were all younger than me. None of them were allowed to witness my wedding, which was really sad because my brother actually got married to his wife at a wedding venue.
Yeah.
We got to be there, and it was so much fun to watch my brother actually get married. The other thing, so here's my cute little girls. So these are two cute little girls with one of my cousins. These two little girls are grown-up adults now. I used to babysit these two girls. So, Andrea, if you are watching this now or in the future, these two little girls were girls that I babysat that I basically considered mine. Their mom and dad would go on vacation, and I would take care of them. And they were not allowed to be at my wedding, even though I was in some ways like a favorite aunt figure because of how often I took care of them. This is Brother Ballard. I can give you his name. He was actually the first temple president of the Snowflake, Arizona temple, where we had our son Eric sealed to us by the same man. And then this man also sealed Brig to us. And he has since passed away. He was my Sunday school teacher who I absolutely loved. He's the man that married us. This is the only picture we have with him. And that was outside of the temple after the wedding. We were not allowed to exchange rings during our wedding. So that cultural tradition of exchanging rings. So we did this outside the temple on the temple steps after the wedding. We did the ring ceremony. The other thing you didn't see is some people won't let you kiss. Some of the officiators won't let you kiss across the altar. Ours did.
Yeah, on that video you didn't see.
Yeah, you didn't see it. You didn't see them kiss. Ours let us. He let us do that. And then the other thing that's really funny, so here I am in my wedding dress. So remember, I'm wearing the Mormon garment at this time period. And one of the things that makes me laugh so hard is right here, I am holding my dress around my garments to make sure nobody can see it because I have to be modest now that I've been through the temple. And you know that extra half inch of my lower thigh above my knee, that would have been problematic, and this picture would have been immodest. So here we are. My family's big and goofy. We have another picture of us like hitchhiking. Hey, can you take us home? That kind of thing. So then we had a reception later, and these are the two pictures I wanted to show here. This young woman in these pictures is my best friend from high school. If you have read my book, this is Chloe from my book. She was not Mormon. But when it comes to the person who had my back through the most traumatic times of my life, it was Chloe. And she's identified herself on our podcast before. So her name is Veronica, and I called her Ronnie. And she kept me out of trouble. She's the one that kept me sane during all of the trauma and abuse from my parents. She and I are still really close. Whenever I go home, she and I get together. I love her. If there was anybody I wanted at my wedding, I'm going to start crying. Anybody who loved me, it would have been Ronnie.
Unconditionally.
Yeah, loved me unconditionally, still loves me unconditionally. And she wasn't allowed to be there because she wasn't Mormon. She wasn't good enough. According to the Mormon church, she was not worthy to support me in my wedding. This is my beautiful wedding cake, see? It's very pretty. Mace, did you have anything that you wanted to say before I move on to some more of the wedding stuff?
I think the only comment I would make is if you hearken back to all the things that we talked about with a cult, this was not a problem for me. This didn't bother me at all.
Because it was the right way.
And I never even considered the possibility that it might bother you because this was the right way. Like, we didn't talk about whether or not this was what you wanted because this was the only choice. For me to get what I wanted, this was the only way. That's changed. Ironically, of course, I'm sure there was a lot of pushback, and finally the leadership of the church has said, you know what, you can get married beforehand, so you can have your wedding, you can have your family members, all that there, and then you can get sealed the next day, or you can get sealed later.
As long as you were worthy when you got married.
Right. It used to be that if you got married outside the temple, worthy or not, it didn't matter. You had to wait a year to get sealed in the temple. Now they've changed that, and I think that's a very positive change. But for us, that wasn't an option. And for most of the history of the church, that wasn't an option.
Well, and I remember I asked my parents.
I shouldn't say that either.
Yeah.
Before the temple in Salt Lake, that's how it was done too. So.
Right. Well, and, I don't know about other families, but I remember asking my parents, I was like, hey, can Mason and I, we'll get married in the temple, but then can we go do a whole wedding ceremony like the next weekend or whatever? And my parents were like, no, that's dumb. If you do that, you're taking away from the beauty of the temple ceremony. And frankly, I didn't find that beautiful. I didn't feel beautiful inside the temple. I felt beautiful outside the temple, but I did not feel beautiful on my wedding day inside the temple when I was marrying my husband. Did I have to veil my face for a portion of it? I didn't, did I? Mm-hmm. No, I didn't have to veil my face. I did not feel beautiful. The thing that, and we've talked about this before, that I really want to kind of end on, Alex, if you can pull up the picture of all of my family in purple. This is my family in 2019. So right in the center, he's sitting on my hip, is our youngest son, Tyler. He was 3.5. The very white boy with the goofy face is now 12, almost 13. He's always been kind of a clown. Got baptized. This is right before our family moved to Missouri without Mason. So as you can see, there's 7 of us. So we've got the 2 boys on Mason's right and left. The lighter complexion is Brig. That's the one that we talked about that has schizophrenia. The other one, the Hispanic son, that's our oldest, Eric. And then you have Tyler in between us. And then my arm is around Hayden, who is now 17. Right below Eric, leaning up against Tyler, is our daughter, Katie. Then Landon is Mr. Goofy Face. And then tucked right up inside of there, you can barely see her, is our daughter, Abigail. This is at the finalization of our adoption of Tyler. So this is the day that the judge said, Tyler, you are now a Westbrook forever, as if you were born to this family. Well, that judge saying that, so at this point, Tyler had lived with us for about 6 months. And he was struggling, nothing like he does today, but he was definitely struggling. And we were getting ready to move. There was a lot going on. But the judge saying, we've determined that your family is the best fit for Tyler for the rest of his life. He is now yours. Wasn't enough for the Mormon temple. And so we talked about this actually in a previous episode where we had to get special permission because Mr. Landon Goofy Face in this picture was almost 8 years old. So I believe that we finalized in March, then we moved. and it was General Conference weekend, and we could not get Landon baptized. So, Alex, if you can pull up the picture of the two boys in white. Eric was old enough to baptize Landon into the Mormon church, and so that's what we did, which was a very special moment between Eric and Landon. And we had to get special permission because this baptism happened after, Alex, if you can pull up the other picture of the families, of all the family. This here, if you notice, Tyler is dressed all in white. So Mason is holding Tyler on his hip. These are all of the individuals that were present in the Dallas, Texas temple. The day, this is the family. So General Conference was on Saturday. So this is the Friday before whatever that Saturday was of General Conference that year. So this would have been, 2019. Yep. General Conference. So this is like Friday afternoon. Our family had already moved to Missouri, and then we traveled back to Texas so that we could do this event and the baptism with our children's friends present. At Tyler's sealing, who was allowed to be in that sealing room? Every single one of my children. However, none of those children, if that had been let's just say that Eric, so Eric is standing between me, I'm in red, and my mother, who is in the blue dress with her arm around goofy face Landon, there at the end. Let's pretend for a minute that this had been Eric's temple wedding. If this had been Eric's temple wedding, none of his siblings would have been allowed in that temple, despite the fact that all of the siblings were allowed in there to witness Tyler being sealed to us. Now, a Mormon sealing means that you are stuck together even in heaven, that your marriage and your family bonds will last into heaven. Without the sealing ceremony in Mormonism, you don't get that. And so here we are pictured with all of these people went into that same exact room that you saw in the video. They saw the same exact clothes because when Tyler was sealed to Mason and I, we still had to wear all of that stupid getup. We had the green apron, the little hats, the veils, the robe, the sash. We still had all of that on us. We still took each other in the patriarchal grip. And then they took Tyler's little hand, and Mason wrapped his thumb around Tyler's little hand so he wouldn't pull it away, because apparently the kid had to be touching us in some way. And man, getting a 3-year-old to keep his hand trapped underneath that thumb for the sealer to do that, we had to start over once or twice, was very difficult. But all the siblings were able to be there for the Tyler, you're sealed to your mom and dad. But none of Eric's siblings would have been able to be there if that had been his wedding. The Mormon church says they're about families. And I don't think they really are. I think that they pretend like they are. But our experience has been when we left Mormonism, our families have pushed us away because we're dangerous. And yet our immediate family, mom and dad, and our kids. Hi, Stephanie. It's great to see you. Very interesting. I agree. Our family, so I'll say this. Since I left, I will speak about my experience, and then Mason, I'll let you close up. Alex, you can go ahead and take this picture away, and Mason and I will just finish up here. I will say that Mason's mom and I were very close. When we were living in North Carolina, Mason's parents were living in Richmond, Virginia. And I spent a great deal of time with his mom. His mom and I would call and talk to each other several times a week. We would visit each other on a regular basis. His mom was a massage therapist. She would give me a massage. I don't know where the pen is. You're going to have to let me cut your finger with, there you go, you found it. I was going to say write it in blood. Just kidding, that's morbid. So anyway, Mason's family, I was very close with his mother. When she found out that I left the church, it's basically been crickets. I think I've had maybe 2 conversations with her since in 4 years. That was very hard for me. The fact that my siblings did not get to watch me get married is one more nail in the coffin of how my parents and the church supported separating me from my siblings. The fact that Mason's siblings weren't able to be there. Now, we would have been able to go to your siblings' temple sealings, and we did, but they weren't allowed to come to ours because they were too little. Mormon church, you need to do better. I did not get my dream wedding. Gratefully, I got my dream guy. I just didn't know he was my dream guy at the time. I love you. I'll keep him. Someday, and hopefully soon, I'm hoping that on the farm, Mason and I will be able to redo our wedding so that we can get that dream wedding that we've always wanted with our family and our kids there, at least the family that, our chosen family, the family that wants to be a part of it.
Hey, you can have one of the horses do the ceremony.
There we go. Ooh, we could ride horseback in. I could be like Julia Roberts and run away from you. Yay! I'm going to do it. It would be so hilarious. And that's totally up my alley. But I want fucking fireflies at my wedding, so we're going to probably do it in June or July so we can get those fireflies in. And I'm going to have Grandma Gail give me away as the mother of the bride because I want that wedding. And the Mormon church took it from me. And the Mormon church has done a whole lot of damage in separating us from our families of origin because we are no longer worthy. We are now dangerous because we believe differently than they do about how people can get to heaven. And whether or not a con artist from upstate New York is a prophet of God or not. Because of that, we are dangerous. Despite the fact that we've raised like 17 kids together.
Your math isn't very good.
No, it's actually right on. I'll give you I had to count it up the other day. We have had a significant impact in raising 17 children, and we have 9 right now that call us mom and dad.
Like so many things, it's not black and white. You know, lots of people had this ceremony, and it was everything that they had hoped it would be.
Many may have found it beautiful.
But the reality is just like me, if this was the only option, then you make the best of it. It would surprise me if very many people would choose to do the temple ceremony as their first choice for a wedding ceremony, because of course you can do so much more in a regular wedding ceremony and then just get sealed afterwards or whatever. So it's not black and white. But if you're not able to view it from a different perspective, view it from someone else's perspective and go, you know what, there is a lot that's lost. What I wrote down, what I call this is exclusivity without rationality. And I think that's a big piece of this, is that if you're excluding people, in this case families, if you're excluding families from something that is supposed to be the ultimate spiritual experience, but without any particular reason, that's control.
Yeah.
That's not taking care of families. That's not exclusivity because this is necessary. It's exclusivity because you want to control the situation.
Right. It's exclusivity because we can.
Yeah, you want to control it. You want everybody to think, well, oh, my siblings can't be there. That's just because this is just so important. That's the thought process that we're then given. But that doesn't have a rationale that actually makes sense. It just is.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I want to think about now that maybe can be helpful for you too to think about. Is just we're excluding for no particular reason. Especially, I love the comparison of our wedding as opposed to our sealing, where all the kids were able to be there.
Right, there's nothing vastly different other than the words that we read to you. Like those words, and I'm sure they've changed a little bit. I think they changed some of the ownership words about the man taking the woman and the woman giving. I know it's been updated recently, but other than those words, there's nothing else different. Like our children, when they got sealed to us, so of the children that got sealed to us, if you didn't come out of my hoo-ha, then we had to take you to the temple later because a judge's order wasn't enough for God to recognize that those children were ours forever. So they had to come out of my hootie-hottie.
Right? Same as the wedding.
Right.
I mean, that for me, that makes sense, but it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense to me. They're kids of my heart, and God can look down. If there's a God, he can be like,
I think what I meant was,
I see it.
It's consistent with the way the church does things. Not necessarily that it makes sense. It's consistent with the way they do things.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, there's nothing different. So why is it okay for my kids' age? So Eric in that video with Britt or with Tyler would have been 16, 17. When we moved here, he finished his junior year and then did his senior year of high school in Missouri before moving out and going to college and growing up all the way. He saw it, and Tyler, our youngest, was 3 when he saw it. Why the hell can't that same aged sibling be with us for a wedding where the clothing is the same, the room is the same? the words are basically
Right.
the same. Why can't they be there? Why couldn't my friend Ronnie, who is one of the humans, like there's no covenant or promise, and there's nothing secret or so sacred that, like, even in the temple endowment, so we did our temple endowment thing, all of those code words and things that we talked about, none of those are disclosed in the temple sealing ceremony. So why can't non-members come in and witness it? You know, it's weird, but if that was our religious ritual, I know that if Ronnie could have been there, she would have been there. And then we would have giggled about some of the get up later, just because that's who I am. What happened.
Well, and you don't necessarily have to have that get up for it either. So
right. Why did we need to have all that? Oh, because we had to get married under the power, the robes of the highest power priesthood.
I know why they say.
Anyway.
But there's no particular reason why the ceremony has to be that way.
So yeah, I would say the Mormon church needs to change, because this does not support familial bonds and closeness.
And they're on the way to making those changes. But again, we're not talking about it, right? It's not hey, we recognize that this has hurt a lot of people over the past, and we just realized that we can do this differently, and so we're going to. Like, we don't talk about it. You just make the policy change. Maybe you tell everybody, but you don't talk about why. You don't talk about the hurt that came from before that. You just write it off on God. Well, God said now we can do it this way. Our God is very wishy-washy.
Yeah. So in closing, I want to just say that, Mason, I love you. I'm very glad that you were chosen for me, and now I will continue to choose you. True story. And also that I absolutely remove the promise and covenant in there that I'm going to give myself to you in any of that creepy culty way, and rather that I'm going to continue to choose to be your equal partner in crime, because we've created a chaotic family, and it makes me happy. But I'm not in no way, shape, or form giving myself as a possession to this guy right here, no matter what Mormonism taught me.
That would be a possession that would be really hard to hold on to.
It would be. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at DaisyGirlCommunications@gmail.com. Also, if you are in crisis, mental health crisis, please reach out and dial 988. They are there to talk to you. You do not have to be suicidal or homicidal to use the 988 crisis line. There are people on call always, just to check in with you and make sure that you're doing okay. So thank you so much. We are very excited to have been here with you today, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.